Committee meeting to order. The first item was assignment for request for council action. We have several for finance. 2199 bids to remodel rotunda. 2200 City Hall rooftop unit RTU replacement. 2201 authorized check endorsement CHIP grant program. 2202 discussion comprehensive plan update. 2203 expenditure for Eventide radio and phone recorder police. 2204 expenditure for Mtg Technologies tablets for cruisers. 2205 expenditure for Stryker medical purchase AEDs. 2206 expenditure for Dynamerica Parks restroom renovation. 2207 expenditure for Rad Construction Park rebuild Santa House. 2208 amend ordinance 5720 Lindenwood Lake Dam improvements. 2209 job creation grant agreement Do It Best Corp. 2210 budget amendments. 2211 purchase of a 2020 NewTek TriCaster cable TV. 2212 expenditure for Dynamerica Service Department City Hall restrooms. 2213 expenditure for Mason Custom Builders City Building restrooms. 2214 expenditure Litchfield Heating Public Building City Hall HVAC replacement. 2215 expenditure Litchfield Heating Public Building City Hall PD boiler. 2216 cooperative purchase audio video equipment rotunda remodel. And 2217 amend code 13301 association memberships police. And 2218 expenditure for Tolbert's Law Department furniture. A lot of things on the agenda there. 2199 bids for the rotunda renovation project. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess first of all, I want to say there's a lot of good folks that did a lot of work in a short period of time, given that we had to prepare for tonight's meeting. We'll acknowledge that a little later. So currently, the rotunda is not equipped to meet the demands of the way business is being conducted. This essentially has become the new multi-purpose room. There's challenges with respect to the technology, not equipped to handle the demands of needs today. The ability to broadcast and conduct virtual meetings, the ability to broadcast city council meetings, maintain the requirements of the public meetings during the crisis and keep communication open to the public. So it require an upgrade of the current equipment in this rotunda. We'll need to increase the amount of microphones in the room to assure the spatial distancing, as you can see how we're configured here tonight. And Jared's here to speak a little bit about that. The playback sound system will need upgraded. The upgrade to the visual presentation abilities of the rotunda so that plans, possibly agendas, anything need to be shared with respect to a meeting can be put on digital format. And then that would remove the need to have paper copies circulating around the room. The rotunda itself, as a structure, needs to be updated to meet the safety precautions of COVID-19. First and foremost would be to remove the current carpet, walls, and benches. These are difficult to sterilize and maintain throughout the day and throughout the meetings. Excuse me. Also, the carpet is very old, will not stand a constant cleaning, remains wet when sprayed. The scope of work and the intent is to raise the current floor to create a more open space that will allow for more spatial distancing during meetings. This current pit, while it served its purpose in the day, the design allows people to congregate in the upper section levels and have discussions with potential of coughing and sneezing onto the lower bowl where meetings are being held and people are meeting and congregating. The removal of the benches will require a new means of seating. It will require tables and chairs to be purchased and to replace the benches that we're all sitting on as administration and spectators. Those are just a few examples. Mr. Robinette is here, Kevin Robinette. He's here to answer any questions. We did print some updated current renderings that Kevin was able to produce in a short period of time, and as the ones that would be to the council's left there along the wall by Mr. Huber. So that is the quick and short. I'm sure you have some questions and there'll be some discussion.
Thank you, Nino. Everybody received in front of them the revised drawings of the area. And if you'll notice, the wall that'll be behind council is going to be a brick wall. And I know we talked a little bit about the wall. If you looking to the, I guess it would be to the east, the northeast corner wall, I guess it would be. We talked about the emblem came down and maybe we could put on that brick wall or something like a cork board or something where we usually get a lot of sometimes drawings from the various school kids around town or notices, and it'd be nice to be able to hang them up so when we have the meetings at least they'll be in view of the public, you know, to show off some of the things that are happening in the city and the city schools. I think that would be a good idea, Jim. I think we have enough things to be able to put on there. And if you notice, we're raised up about, I don't know if that's 2 feet or 3 feet, probably about 2 feet. Is that about what it is? Yes, Kevin?
Kevin will address that.
As far as the general layout of the council podium, I essentially used the exact same dimensions that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
The differentiation between the raised platform and the finished floor is exactly the same. They just move up relative to one another. I used the same geometry of the curve that you have and the same geometry of the countertop. Essentially asked the question if there was any problems with what you had. The answer was no, and took the approach, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
And also added to this will be I think Jared mentioned an 85-inch screen or 82-inch screen. 85-inch screen behind us, and it'll be an 85-inch screen on that side, just in case there's any presentations. We all don't have to turn around to see it. Everybody can witness it. If you're sitting in the audience or sitting on council, you'll be able to see that. And in the back, in the rear, where we have the audiovisual material, there'll be a room that's constructed with, I guess, a window beneath it, so you can see. And then on the one side, there's a wall that foldable tables will go up, because there's one thing that you'll look, if you look at the drawing, where the administration going to sit for the presentations, and there's going to have to be tables like there are currently, and then chairs will have to be put there on that side, is my understanding. And I talked to Kevin a little bit about the podium. If you look on the drawings you have to the, I guess it would be to the, what would that be, the west. The northwest corner. The only thing I would like changed on that, I don't know if anybody agrees, I mean, enclose it, I guess, instead of having it open, and the podium should be as tall as that podium you're standing right next to now. And I don't know how tall that podium, I know you have the handicap portion of it.
Yeah, the way this was laid out originally, the flat counter that you see was set at handicapped height, and then I extended that counter to accommodate the podium. And
is it? And I guess the question is that podium is not as tall as that one.
no, it's not. I have to raise it up.
And then if you can enclose it, I guess, just so you don't have to see, I mean, maybe they'll look nicer.
It's
in
not
the
a
back.
problem.
Because in the back corner back there, I guess that makes sense. People will be talking back there, at least then people could watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume that, Jared, there'd be a camera on those people so that they could see the person talking.
Correct. We'd have the camera that would reside behind the council. That
And at least everybody would know where that would be at all times when they address council. And you could hook up, if they have any kind of computer hookup or something, you'd be able to hook up right there, I would imagine.
That's correct.
So-
Yeah, there's that wall of the sound booth will have power, it'll have a microphone jack, and it'll have an HDMI port.
Okay. So that can all take place, and that'll be out of the way, so it wouldn't affect any
That's
any
right.
other meetings that
People
we have.
can move in and out pretty easily at the back of the room.
Okay. No.
Pardon me, really quick. Medina.TV 37 is muted right now.
Okay, yeah, one of our TriCasters has crashed, so we're
Okay.
piecing that together as we go. The live stream has the audio. I'll try to troubleshoot that momentarily for the
I didn't
live.
want everyone to continue while people were waiting to hear what we were saying.
hence the reason for the updates we're asking for right now.
And Kevin, my understanding is there's going to be a handicap accessible lift behind, if there's anybody
Yeah.
that,
Provisions will be made for an opening through the wall, which you can see in the rendering, and we're looking at a couple of different alternatives for the equipment. I believe the city's contemplating purchasing that directly as opposed to through the general contract agreement, and there will be the capability to have a lift to get someone in a wheelchair up to the podium platform.
okay. Good. And it looks like from the renderings, it's going to be all glass around there to keep it as see-through as possible?
The first time I sat down and worked through the design and constructing this, I put the glass in. Based upon the differentiation from floor to the podium of only 16 inches, We're not required to have that guard. So at this point, we're just showing the guardrail, and I haven't called for the glass in the design.
So the ones we're looking at is just a brown guardrail and not glass in it?
Yeah, he has the updated ones, Kevin, so they have that last rendering. Yeah,
Oh, that's it, okay.
yes.
All right. And the only other thing is, I think if we had an emblem, I know we don't have one now, but a city emblem, that if we can, I know if we have one in the front, just so when it's televised, I guess they could see a city emblem for the city of Medina. Because right now, if you look at this, you don't know what city you're in.
Right. Well, one of the things that we just spoke about when we were designing it was potentially putting the words Medina across that curved face. That was one other alternative we looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. What is everybody's thoughts on
I
that?
like that idea. I would like to have something, either the logo or the name.
We talked about city.
Well, the thing about the logo is, by virtue of the fact the camera's picking it up from back here, I think it'll be hard to discern exactly what it is. It'll appear as a round object, and there'll be some articulation, but I don't believe the detail will be enough to really pick it up. Just the nice block letters across the face of the counter, I think, would read very effectively. Just a thought.
Yeah, no. I mean, if we could visually see it, that may be a better idea.
I can do that.
Any questions anybody has?
We want to talk about the cost.
I just have two, I think. One is, and I don't know what everybody else thinks, but it always seemed to me that when we do, for example, when the mayor's you're doing a proclamation, or we want somebody in the audience we're going to give them something, we do it here, but there's never a microphone. There is no microphone here. And it's, I don't know, my suggestion would be that I know we have the podium in the back, but that we have a podium or a podium that could be set up, and then the wiring could be available so that there could be a station, somebody could stand there with a microphone, rather than what we've done, is hold a microphone and then the person try to hand it to the person, and it seems awkward to me.
Well, I guess the question is, are there going to be wireless microphones?
My thought there was that we will have audio plates at various locations coming across the center and also at the front that we'll be able to tie into, and we can then plug a microphone in when we're having presentations like that. That can just have a mic stand with a mic on
Like a
it.
stem
Correct.
STEM microphone?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, that's great. I mean,
Yeah,
that solves that.
Yeah, working closely with Jared, I got really good input early on as to how this could be put together. And we've got 4 floor boxes that are connected back to the sound booth for microphone cables. And there's one right in the middle up front where this gentleman's sitting, and there's one in the middle of the floor, and then there will be one on each side which will be able to feed the department head tables. And they're flush boxes with the floor.
And,
That would also allow you to accommodate from when we have joint meetings with school boards and county commissioners, provide enough microphones to handle that.
my other question was, once I'm looking at the floor, what will the floor, I mean, when we look around, there is the original flooring, and then this floor will be,
Carpet tiles.
this floor will be carpet.
Carpet,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I wholeheartedly, I think these are great drawings. I, support the plan. Gives us more space, accessible, safe for meeting. The technology, I think is overdue, so it doesn't have to be set up. I think looks to me to be a really well thought out plan.
So let's talk about the plan, the cost of both the renovation and then the audiovisual portion of the cost. So,
Kevin, do you want to address the construction costs with
Yeah,
respect to what you sent over, please?
I engaged a cost estimator that I work with frequently on public projects. That's sort of her specialty, and she came up with an overall cost estimate of $245,000, and that includes $40,000 in overtime in case it's needed to meet the scheduling demands.
and when you say the construction, that includes the demolition and construction.
That's right. That's a finished job, with the exception of the audio-visual equipment.
And that's where we're going to go to next. Jared, what is your estimate on modifying all the audiovisual for this?
That is estimated, these are still pending the drawings, but at the time they're estimated 125,000.
And that includes all the hookups and wiring necessary and the TV and the purchase of the monitors and everything you need in your back room.
Yes, everything from the wall pockets, the ports, the cabling, everything that needs to be run, and the technology, yes.
And does that take out in the council offices, we have that server in the back, is that taking the server and putting it in your room, or is that server still stay back there?
That could be something we could talk with IT about if that's something you want to do.
Well, I just didn't know if it's better to have it secured in one room or not.
We have multiple switches. Now that's something we can discuss. Again, I'd have to defer to Darren. I don't know how he has the infrastructure set up for that, but we'd have to clarify that.
I have a question, John. I see that the emergency clause is requested, and once the bids go out and they're accepted, what is the timeline for this, Nino?
So we, again, a lot of folks jump through some hoops here. We would like to advertise starting tomorrow because of short window. So 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks of bid letting and receiving bids, and then opening on November 9th. Or is it the 10th, Pat? The 10th, with probably a special board of control award, hopefully, and then that leaves construction for after November 10th to December 30th. This has to be done complete, ready for business by December 30th.
Okay. And my only other question, in the meantime, while the construction is going on for our finance and council meetings, and I don't know if we're going to probably have to have a couple more budget meetings, would we be doing the downstairs, or would we be doing this remotely?
I could propose you guys could look at that either way, depending on your agenda. I'm sure we could ask Mr. Shields in the school district if we could utilize one of their spaces. I know they have the PDC room. We could also Performing Arts Center possibly.
Okay.
If you're looking for a location to go remote for those meetings, and if you feel you can do them in the multi-purpose room, by all means, that's your option.
Good. Thank you.
I just wanted to chime in that the deadline on the CARES funds is the 28th.
Of December.
December.
Right. 'Cause I think Nino said the 30th, and it's the 28th.
He's trying to get a couple extra days, but
I
I know you tried hard. Is there, so this of course is all CARES Fund monies, and I know we have the overtime in there, so the question is if we can't use that or don't need to use that money for overtime, we still have an opportunity, at least if we use it and allocate it towards payroll prior to December 28th.
We're probably going to need a council meeting. We're definitely going to need a council meeting like in that last week of the year, because when all these purchase orders close out, whatever's left on those lines, we're going to have to close those purchase orders and then reappropriate that money to the police fund payroll line. And we're not going to know that total until we pay these bills, which is going to be,
Right.
it's going to be real close to the end of the year, and probably some of it's going to be after.
So we may need a meeting on the 27th, which is Monday.
Yeah,
Well, Saturday's okay.
so, now their definition of spent is good or service received. So we may not actually write these checks until into January. That's okay, but the work has to be done by December 28th.
And this has been approved, or Todd Hunt looked over this, and we're all good to go. We're using the funds for this purpose?
I sent it to him. I haven't gotten officially that it's okay, but I haven't gotten that it's not. He didn't raise any red flags.
Okay. And also, is there going to be, as part of the audiovisual, whatever, a panic button? I mean, do you have one back in your room, and is there going to be one up in the council?
Oh, in terms of the panic button, yeah, we could. I know we'd keep the one up that's currently up there.
But I don't know if it has to be hardwired if we're doing it, or is it just going to be a remote?
Put it by me.
I'm just wondering if it's better to be hardwired or not. That's the question.
Consider it department as a backup.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one more question. I heard the 125 for the audio. I did not hear the other number.
240.
What was it? 240?
240.
245. Thank you.
45, 826.
The only other question I have, Mayor, is during the construction, I mean, it's going to obviously be an inconvenience, but will the public still be able to come in and access you in the building department? And
Yes, sir. What I envision is kind of what they do at hospitals, where we'll try to wrap it and close it as best we can, but we're going to maintain
Thank
open
you.
for business. Yes, sir. That works for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Not to belabor things, I have one last thing in conjunction with this project. So with removing the sidewalls, we'll get into about a 2-foot perimeter with this tile floor. Is that correct, Kevin?
No, it'll be very
Right
very
flush.
close to what it is right now. I mean, essentially the way this is built is the back side of the sloped wall goes 4 inches over the edge onto tile. We'll have
Okay.
that band removed. but I've tried to keep the aisles as close to the current width as possible.
So I've spoken with a flooring guy and giving a sample of the tile to see if he can plane it. I don't think it'll be tied to this project, but I'll see if I can use public buildings carry forward to make the floor uniform then.
Okay.
Because it'd be tough to have a new renovation and then the floor looking like it does. I know Councilman Shields brings it up quite often to me, so I have a plan to work on that.
Only for 19 years, Mr. Piccolo.
I'm working on it. Things take time.
Yeah.
Maybe we can work on the elevator in the firehouse too. So.
But I do. I want to thank Dan Gladish and Pat and actually Jared and Matt and everybody else and Kevin especially for putting this together in a short period of time.
Yes, thank you.
The
Thank you
window's
very much.
narrow, so I appreciate
Thank
everybody's
you.
efforts.
Yeah, we appreciate all your efforts. It looks good. I think you heard a couple comments that we had, nothing major, it sounds like. It's
Right.
Yep.
sounds like just enclosing the podium in the back and looking at what the city Medina, or I don't even know, the city logo or whatever, if you wanted to put the logo in the middle that's bigger. I mean, I don't know if that would be something we'd want or not. I mean,
I kind of like the words too.
Right.
the word is Medina.
I'll have, I mean, I'm capable of doing this. In order to get the lettering on there and make it look right, I'm going to have to engage someone about half my age.
Joe, did you want to? I'm sorry. Did you want to talk about the spacing between the council members that we?
Yeah, you talk about that a little bit because this is a COVID project, and we talked about a possible, if we're all up there together, a plexiglass spacing
Correct.
and a plexiglass wall in between us, and it might be permanent. I don't know, but no.
Some will be tinted, some won't.
So they're talking about in between, if we can all sit up there, to be probably a 3-foot,
Kevin, we could do
coming
that
out,
after.
so we sit in our own little cubicle,
Office.
so to speak. Yes. And that way, it won't be visible from the audience, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
We couldn't really communicate with each other unless you go around the glass.
It'd be nice to have them not be permanent because
Yeah.
eventually we might not need them, but, you know.
Right. No, and as we talked about, that way we don't have to come down here. Then
Right.
we can always be up there together, but we'd be separated.
I like that idea.
Yeah. No, as a matter of fact, when the guy who does my drawings for me first ran through this, he actually had that on the drawings.
Yes.
And I expressed to him the way you set now is the temporary provision. But I think the plastic screen will work. A couple of months ago, I put together plastic screens for a synagogue to put on their Torah tables.
Okay.
And they're fairly easy to mount. They're not that expensive. And with the clear plexiglass, if they're self-supporting, you really hardly see it.
Right. Right. And no, I think that'll be great. And even if somebody gets sick during the year, we could put it up to keep you separate from everybody.
I got a question. I got a question about the lift system that goes next to the council table. While the CARES money is obviously paying for this now, elevators, lifts, they cost money to maintain. I'm curious if it wouldn't just be simpler to do a simple ramp that we would never have to maintain.
You know what? A ramp, in order for it to be a legal ramp, it would have to be 16 feet long. And there's really just not room to integrate something that's 16 foot long and 3 feet wide. We've looked at two versions of ramp, or of lifts. One, a conventional lift, which I think is too much for this job. Most of the smaller lifts are designed to go over 4 feet, so they have a big mast on them to support the lift. I spoke to the manufacturer to see if we could get one that was smaller, because you only have to go 16 inches, and they don't make them. And then we found a second version, which is actually mobile. It's something that can be slid into place and can be used as a temporary provision or as needed. And in all honesty, I've never worked with one before, so I'm not sure how much maintenance it really requires.
I've actually seen some of the mobile ones that can be stored elsewhere, and if the incident occurs where there needs to be one, it can be brought out, and it's I don't know the cost on it, but I have.
You know what? We found the product. I've shared it with the representatives of the city. It's something that we'll dig into in the next week to figure out.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council for the architect or Nino? Anybody? Anybody
Good
else
job,
have
you
any?
guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for your quick
Mayor, you
work.
got any questions? Thanks for all your help, and it looks like it's going to be a good project, and hopefully it'll open up the city hall for more meetings for other things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this has to be
Or is there a
passed with the
motion?
emergency
Yep,
clause.
I'll make a motion to go out to bid for the rotunda renovation project with the emergency clause.
I'll second that, including the emergency clause.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2200, a cooperative purchase for a rooftop air conditioning unit for City Hall. Mr. Pacoli or Mr. Gladish? Who's doing this? Both of you guys.
I'll start. Actually, Dan was very instrumental on this one too. Dan is our residential HVAC expert, so I appreciate his efforts through this whole thing within this last couple weeks as well. So our current RTU, which is the rooftop unit, does not have capability or capacity to increase the volume of fresh air in the ventilation into this occupied space. We talked a little bit about this when we had the CARES funding, if you recall, 2 weeks ago. Likewise, it doesn't have an internal exhaust system to remove stagnant air to prevent the building from becoming overpressurized, which in turn affects the airflow throughout the building. Also, the comfort control system is not. It's an obsolete pneumatic system, so you can ask the employees here. We've known about that for a long time. The replacement of this unit can be integrated with the existing supply and discharge ductwork. It does not have a clean air filtration system that's available with today's technology. I believe Barbara DeJure had reached out to the health department, and they have blessed this project as a COVID-related project. Additionally, the existing gas and electric feeds are sufficient to be utilized in the installation process. The unit we're looking at to purchase, it's been spec'd out. Dan was instrumental again from the National Cooperative Bid Program, Omnia Partners, U.S. Communities. The RTU, the rooftop unit itself, is $116,500 from Trane on the national bid list. The warranties, which Dan can explain a little bit, are $12,000 also from Trane. It would require, upon approval if passed, a crane and rigging to remove the current unit and set the new unit on its existing structure with minimal modifications. The controllers necessary, there's 43 VAV boxes, and Dan could talk a little bit about that potentially, and its related equipment. That's $77,734. We're looking at $221,234. With the install, it'd be $25,000 for the removal and replacement of the same. $246,234 is what we're looking at. I do want to talk about the boiler. That's later. That actually correlates with the tracer unit. That's the 75-ton unit that we have now. So I could wait to discuss that when we get further down. I believe it's down on the lower in the agenda tonight.
All right, Mr. Gladish.
Yeah, the new units are much more efficient than what we have here now, so energy costs will be a lot less. We have the ability with this unit to have an upgraded filtration system, which is the new technology. The warranty is important. That's a 2 through 5 year warranty, all parts, labor, everything. Normal warranty on a unit is just 1 year. These units have a lot of different technical things in it that the warranty would be worth the investment. And that's really it. The existing system, there's 43 thermostats throughout the building that controls VAV, which is a volume box that allows air to go in and out of different spaces, different offices. Though that stuff's all obsolete. Most of it's been disconnected over time because they're obsolete. You can't get parts for them. The control system actually uses an air compressor, so there's an air compressor that pumps air through a 1/4-inch, 1/8-inch line throughout the entire building, instead of having like a 24-volt or electronic controls. So that's really all I have to say.
And is this all updated for? I mean, I guess I'm just going to ask the question. You can operate it through your iPad. Is this kind of that? Is this what we're talking about?
There would be. It would be controlled by a computer that Nino would have control of. Yes. So if there's a problem, you want to adjust something or change something, it could all be done over the computer. Yes.
Okay. When you say the health department approved it, I mean, did Todd Hunt too? I mean, we all good because you have to attach a certificate. I think when we pass all these as ordinances, we want to pass a certificate of authenticity, I guess, or something that gives us ability to prove that it's something that the CARES Act funding would pay for.
I think that's a Keith question. I've not had any dialogue, I'm sorry, Keith, with Mr. Hunt.
I sent him the list of everything we talked about, and I didn't get back any red flag objections. But like the mayor was just saying, I mean, we need in writing from him that these things are okay, and I'm gonna let him know that. I kind of talked to him about that, but everything's been moving fast, and like on these, we didn't have the specs of what this was going to be or the specs of the rotunda. So I mean, he's going to get all that stuff, and then whatever questions he has, because you're right, we want that in writing back from them that these are okay,
Okay.
which we don't have yet. But I did show him the list of these things, and we talked about it, and he had a couple things he had questions about, and most of them he was okay with. But yeah, we need that in writing.
And when would the project be performed?
The unit would be ordered direct from Train. We would expect arrival around December 14th or the week of the 14th. To change the unit out is probably about a 3-day project. That wouldn't include installing these VAV boxes. That would be something we would purchase all that stuff through the cooperative bid program. We would have it here, and then that would be a project that we would do next year to install these individual boxes.
Oh, so we're going to install them and use our own labor in the city, or who's going to install them?
We would have somebody like maybe Litchfield. We would
Is that part of the
contract
cost that you mentioned, or is that in addition to the cost that you mentioned?
No, that is not part of the cost, because there's no way that we could have all that complete by December 28th.
Could you install the thermostats prior to the installation of the unit?
Yes, and they're all electronic, so there's no wires that run to them. So yeah, those would just be one screw to mount it to the wall.
Okay, so that's
yeah,
minimal cost.
Yeah, and we would have those thermostats, and that's something we can do ourselves, and would literally in a half a day have all of them put in. And then the boxes would be ready to install. Each box is, roughly 18 by 18, and there's boxes already up there. One would come down, the new one would go right in its place. It would be nice to have it all done, but there's no way that can be completed by December 28th. But we could purchase the boxes and have them ready to go.
And is the cost of installation going to be great? I mean, what are we talking? Is it going to be humongous to install those boxes?
It's probably, labor would be about 4 hours per box, per unit times 43. So, there would be, I didn't do the math on that, but there would be labor cost of 4 hours per box.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm just taking a guess. What do they charge? $50 an hour? $70 an hour. So $280 per box times 43.
Say $300 a box.
$300 a box. Figure times 43. So 13,000 or something like that.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? And what happens in the interim? I guess people just don't have heat.
So that's where the boiler comes in. We're looking at, as Dan mentioned, December 7th to 14th is delivery date for the train, because we made that in these last 2 weeks. That was the discussion. If we can't get the unit, it can't get spec'd out, that all was worked out. So they're pretty much guaranteeing the unit to be delivered here. So in that time, not knowing what the weather's going to be like, we're going to rely on the boiler. Well, if you recall, we've had the capital list of projects. The HVAC has been on that list forever. We didn't budget. We actually talked about it, but we never put money aside for it. The boiler, 18 years ago, we were told is on its last leg. We've been limping it along. The metal's there's copper versus stainless steel and steel that causes corrosion, so there's some issues there. So that's why we have requested further on down the agenda to replace the $1.2 million BTU boiler with 3 individual units, correlating with this job because it's tied in, computer driven with the RTU. They work together. We have perimeter heat with the boiler and air moving from the HVAC unit.
So getting a new boiler, would that change the efficiencies, or would it be more able to control it, or what?
We're told that the anticipation is to get 300,000 BTU boilers. They're 2 foot by 2 foot. They would be wall mounted, and my understanding is they're 97.5 efficiency rating versus what we have now. I mean, it's a 1973 vintage is what's up there.
So we'd eliminate all those little space heaters.
Yes. Well, that's our hope. Our goal is to, yes, there's so many of them. I don't know that everyone will be pleased with the climate control here. I'm not going to go on record and say that, but it should be an improvement.
All right. Okay. Anybody have any questions then?
Again, thanks for all the hard work.
Okay.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 2189, approve or disapprove solid waste management plan update. Mr. Broccoli, updates.
I haven't spent much time since it was on the agenda, to be honest with you, with the last couple of weeks on the items we just discussed. We talked about the EPA solid waste plan that they're compelled, the county is compelled to upgrade every 5 years. Currently, the gate rate's at $50. The anticipation is to go to $59 by per ton in 2028 and hold that until 2035. That's what the solid waste district is stating. I know Councilman Heffinger had asked, what if this plan doesn't pass through the multiple jurisdictions, the cities and so forth with their councils and political subdivisions? My understanding is the state comes in and takes over. They would mandate or could mandate 25% recycling, the 90% access goal, as we always discuss. And I'm hearing they could make cities or entities do curbside recycling. They'll tell you what their plan is going to be. I don't know that would happen. That's just the discussion that's been taking place. But it's never not passed through the solid waste district. I mean, other city, Brunswick and the townships have always passed it.
Questions? Mr. Lamb?
So this is the plan that we talked about. This is what we talked about, I don't know, a while back. We had a more detailed discussion about this, I think. Am I
Yes.
right, Nino? Nothing's changed since we had that discussion.
No, it is not.
And I guess we're gonna vote yes. I mean, I'm gonna vote yes basically because we have no choice. But I still.
We always have a choice.
We have a choice, but I mean, logically, we don't have a choice. But we're trapped in, I feel like I have felt for years, we are trapped in this program that has fundamentally, I think, is a disservice to our community. And if we had the ability to function free of it on our own, I think we could probably do a much better job of providing the service.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
No question, but a comment. I just want to reiterate what Councilman Lamb just said, and I stated it last time we discussed this. I don't feel that the solid waste management plan benefits our city in any way. So as Councilman Lamb said, I will vote yes because we have no choice, but I just want it known that, I'm not happy with the solid waste management plan, and I'm not happy with what it does for the city.
Well, I would concur with both of your comments regarding it, but I'm going to vote no, because I don't think we should adopt a plan that really doesn't work for anybody. I think that it's a valid effort for the county doing the work on the front end, but the biggest issue we've found out through the tracking devices and what we've had is on the back end, things aren't being recycled. So I don't want to give encouragement to residents of the city of Medina saying, yes, we are recycling, when in fact we're not. I think the question is, once it gets to the recycling entity, they're not recycling. And I think that's where the disconnect starts. I think the county's trying to make a valid effort to recycle, but they're ignoring the back end. Once we give the material to the recyclable entity, they're not recycling it. And I think that is a problem because they're using taxpayers' money not to recycle. And we're telling people we're using your taxpayers' money to recycle. And I can't with good conscience say that it's happening when it actually is not happening. So my vote's going to be a no vote on this, for the mere fact that we are not doing the recycling we're telling the residents we're doing. Any other questions? Mr. Rose?
Mr. President, thank you. I agree with Mr. Lamb and Ms. Hazeltine regarding it doesn't do the service to the city. I agree with Mr. Coyne that they're really not recycling, and I don't think that a yes vote is going to help fix the problem. I think we do need to send a no vote to the county and then to the state to tell them to fix their stupid law that was enacted back in 1989 or 1899, whatever the heck it was, a long time ago. It doesn't suit today's needs, and they need to break up the cartel that's holding us hostage to their demands. We can't have the same company that owns the trash hauling, that owns the landfills, that we have to pay money to. We need to break that up, so that's where we need to start. And so I will be voting no.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Heffinger?
I just want to agree with Mr. Rose here. I think sometimes it's good to make a stink. I think that most people have no idea what's going on with the trash, and we need to make this conversation happen. And maybe a way to do that is by pushing no through and hoping other cities around us will follow.
Okay.
Any other
Well,
questions,
It
Kevin?
sounds like now we have the majority voting no.
Yeah,
So what does that
I
mean?
retract my statement.
Well, no, I guess the question is, I don't want the county to take this the wrong way. I mean, they're trying, but the question is, they need to do more once it leaves the county to make sure that the items are being recycled, and that's not happening. And that's where the disappointment, I think, arises. I think the county's trying to do a great program, but they're missing it. They're missing what happens when it leaves the county. It doesn't get recycled. And I think we can't tell our residents, you guys are doing a great job, keep up the recycling, when it doesn't happen. I think that's where, and we know it doesn't happen because we had trackers. I mean, there was trackers put in Channel 8. They followed the trash, not only in Medina, but in Cuyahoga County, and it wasn't being recycled. So how could we, with a straight face, saying, "Oh, we ignore that result because that's just a fake result," when we know it's not? So, I mean, I get what they're trying to accomplish, but charging fees to recycle and not happening doesn't really go far. And with Mr. Heffinger, at the end of August, mentioned, we could try our own things. Maybe try to give out recycling barrels for yard waste in the backyard. Try to give out something, or was that
Composting.
composting? Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe that's what we try to do, and we try to figure out ways that we know recycling is happening. Do those things that we know happen. Because I remember we knew when there was paper bins out just for paper, we knew that paper was being recycled. So those are things we know happen. So maybe we try to focus on that to try to limit the volume of our trash, and that'll cut down on our costs, and that type of recycling can occur, and we can monitor it and track it.
Mr. President, I have a question for Nino. If the majority votes no on this plan, the plan still goes forward. The costs that we incur per ton is still going to go forward. This would just be saying that, as Mr. Coyne stated, that.
That is correct.
Okay, that answered my question.
Well, the
Thank
only
you.
way this plan will fail is if Brunswick votes no,
Yes.
or if a majority of the townships vote no.
And I thought that I read someplace that Brunswick already passed it.
They have their third reading, I believe, tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So they have a third reading, and then they'll go to vote. And it's
Okay.
60%, as Mr. Coyne referenced, 60% of the population of the political entities have to pass it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Lamb?
I didn't say I would vote yes because I wanted to mislead the public any more than anybody else wants to. My sense was that Brunswick is going to pass it tonight, and whether we vote yes or no, I think the result would be exactly the same.
That's true.
Nothing will change. I mean, if we all want to vote as a protest vote, then I'm okay with no, but a no and a yes is basically the same thing. I think the point that needs to be made is exactly what almost everybody here has said, is that what the county is doing is not providing the service that our public believes it is doing, and that's what needs to be corrected. And we are locked into this no matter how we vote tonight. I can vote yes and somebody else can abstain and somebody can get up and walk out for 10 minutes. It doesn't make any difference. It's going to be the same. We are locked into a system that we literally have no control over. And it's absurd because we are responsible in every other area of services, safety services, and all the other services we provide for our residents, except for this one. And it is one of the things that I'm sure some of you or most of you may agree with me. It's one of the things I hear the most consistently about, and that is about the recycling program. And it's unfair to our residents who take the time to do the recycling and drive to these bins and put the recycling in and then have it go to the trash.
And
It's not only unfair, I mean, it's just wrong.
And I agree with you 100%. And as I commented before, and I'm not talking about the commissioners, the trash hauler. If the person that was the company that was awarded the contract, with the way recycling is being treated worldwide, that basically went down to almost non-existent. If they would just be honest and say, when something more palatable becomes available, then we can start recycling. But in reality, it's not happening. If they would just say that, that would make more sense. But they're not going to be willing to do that. So And I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to vote no on this.
And I agree with you too. But if they would also say that, but then not charge us for it.
Right.
I mean, because this is a service that, we are paying for.
Right.
That
Well,
it's a
Mr.
service
McCauley-
we pay for that we don't get.
On those bins that, around the county, you had an estimate before of how much, recyclable materials thrown in those bins, the tonnage, and how much of that actually is being recycled because of the contamination. Do you remember that number?
I don't know if I have it here. I have a bunch of paperwork here, piles, but I thought that at one point the recycling, that the contamination rate was around 40% for some reason, I was thinking, but it could be less. I shouldn't comment because I don't have that in front of me, and I don't
Yeah, no, I
wanna
remember some
misrepresent
number
it.
like that. So even the individuals throwing all that in these bins, thinking that all is being recycled, only 60% to 50% is being recycled, possibly. And then of that 50 to 60% they think is being recycled, I think we came up with a number that far less. It's like 2% or 3% or something that we've started back in 1993 with a number, and we're still at that same number.
Right.
So that's the issue. And I do understand your argument, Bill, regarding it's going to happen no matter what. But I agree with that. But in good conscience, I think we just can't say we're going to roll over and say that's just the way life is. No, life needs to be changed, and this is one step towards that changing. That's how I look at it. Any other questions?
I just want to say the same thing as Councilman Lamb, and I swear I'm not a parrot, but had I known when I made my statement that I would have the full support of council in voting no, my statement might have gone differently. I'm very proud that we're ready to take this step, and although it may or may not change anything, just the fact that we are willing to unite as a council and say, no, this isn't okay, I'm really proud of it. So I will also vote no.
Okay. Other
I have
questions?
just one more thing before you do this, and I think somebody said it, but a no vote is not a no vote directed at the county commissioners. This is a no vote directed at the system that we're stuck in with regard to the failure really of the recycling program. That is a good attempt but not working.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Other questions?
So do you want me to make the motion as the motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay. Move to approve?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails. Okay, 2021, thanks, Nino, for all your work on that. 2021, authorized check endorsement 559 North Harmony Street. This is
Yeah, I'll take that one,
Jonathan?
Mr. President. This is associated with damage that happened at 559 North Harmony Street here in the city of Medina. There was damage during one of the recent storms. The owner's insurance company had said, made it out to the owner and the mortgage holder, which is the owner's father, apparently, and the city of Medina, because we have a lien on the property from a past CHIP grant that was on the site. So they made it out to all three of us. So basically, this is having council permitting the mayor to sign off on this check so that this owner can receive it's about $6,000 to do some repairs to their house through their insurance.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
And the emergency clause is requested and is also on city council this evening, just so that this can be taken care of right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 2202, discussion of the comprehensive plan update. Jonathan?
Yes. Back in May, council basically said let's hold off on doing comprehensive plan to see if those funds that were allocated toward it could be used in other ways in the city, since we were kind of in the midst of the beginning of the COVID crisis. So council said bring it back fourth quarter. So it's the fourth quarter of the year. So I want to bring it back for discussion to see if council wants to. We can use the ordinance 5-20 that authorized the RFP issuance. We could do that again and solicit consultants to apply for or submit plan requests or proposals. Alternatively, I found some other examples, that we could do it in-house with maybe some outside help for, technical needs. So just bringing this back to council to discuss if you guys want to kind of restart the process as we did or restart it but in a little different way. Thank you.
Mr. Mr. Lamb? This came out of your committee.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Jonathan and I talked a month ago, Jonathan. I think we talked about it. And if we're comfortable with the funding, I would recommend that we would go forward in the same way that we discussed originally. I think a lot of things can be done in-house that'd be good to do, but I think when we're looking at it, we're looking at a plan that we are hopeful will hold up and serve our purposes for 10 years, maybe. I think that it's money well spent if we have that outside people to work on it with us, work on it with the folks that are already here, work on it with the committee that we're going to put together, so that we end up with a product that we think will sustain itself in its usefulness over that period of time. And if we're comfortable with the funding now, then I would be supportive of just going ahead with it.
Other questions or thoughts?
Two questions, Jonathan. First one, what's the cost? What estimated cost would be doing it in-house, and then estimated cost bringing a contractor in?
I don't have an estimated cost for in-house. It would be, off the top of my head, it would be significantly cheaper than hiring an outside consultant. We had estimated about $40,000 to $80,000 in the last number, like 7 years of carry forward and budgets that I've done since I've been here. My predecessor, Greg Hannon, was saving up for it as well with those kind of estimates. In the RCA, the RFPs, the proposals we did receive back in March was a range of $78,000 to $149,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So
That hasn't changed.
that's a big range. It's about 100% range increase. So we probably could. I could put together some numbers for in-house, but I'm sure it would be much lower.
So the mid-range would be, say, about $110,000 mid-range of the range that you gave us here. Then, if for bringing somebody in.
The 149,000 was a significant outlier from the rest of them.
Okay.
The rest of them was 78 to about 95.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
John, Mr. Huber has a question.
Mr. Huber?
Does this work? If we're going to engage in a comprehensive plan, my recommendation would be to have an outside entity do that work, because when we get into zoning conflicts, it's usually Jonathan at the front end of the argument, and the comprehensive plan comes in as more or less an arbiter of how this should go. And if Jonathan's in the middle of the argument, or the planning department is in the middle of the argument, and he also did the comprehensive plan, that is not as solid a basis for trying to advance an argument when you're up in the court. And so it costs more, but these comprehensive plans are heavily relied upon by the trial judge, and having an outside set of eyes in terms of their expertise to bring into the case, in addition to what Jonathan is trying to advance, is beneficial for us.
Mr. Coyne?
Danny?
And I appreciate all the hard work that Jonathan and Bill's done on this, and I know we all want to be involved with it when we start doing this. I agree with our legal representation. That's probably something that we probably should look at doing from outside, or at least having some help. Maybe we can do a little bit of both. But I would make the suggestion, my opinion only, with everything that's going on now, with the CARES Act that we're all every department's trying to deal with, that I would postpone this till the beginning of the year.
Other thoughts? Mr. Heminger?
When we were talking about the courthouse project, they brought up that they couldn't do a proper parking study because of COVID times and how people are changing their behaviors right now. So I'm curious if you think that because it's COVID times and we brought an outsider in, would that change their perception of how they viewed the flow of the city and what's happening, traffic patterns and whatnot?
you know, a lot of, with a comprehensive plan, particularly for a city like ours that's effectively built out, we're in redevelopment stage of our, you know, of our history. I mean, I don't think there's going to be significant, you know, new sizable roads and capacity built into roads and streets. I would be surprised if we had a significant increase. The community said, yeah, let's increase the level of development 400% across the board. I don't see that happening. So what you see out there is pretty much what we're probably going to have for a pretty long time. So I don't think that's too much of a concern, and any of these consultants have the skills and abilities to project, to basically say, okay, 20 and lots of 21 is just going to be an outlier. It's going to get ignored. And we can look at 19, 18, 17 for, you know, for demographics and data sets. So I don't feel they probably will look, okay, but what is, now that there may be a change of view of, you know, commercial real estate, office real estate, is that a trend that is going to be reinforced by the COVID, by COVID, and maybe project into the future as people that spend money on commercial real estate say, hey, maybe I don't need to spend as much money. So there's going to be trends that probably come out of COVID, but I think the traffic patterns is probably just going to be, okay, that's just an outlier effect, and it may not be a substantive issue for a consultant that has the skills and ability to put together a plan for the next 10 to 15 years from now.
Well, I have a hard time seeing how we plan that far out when right now we don't know what the next year looks like for a lot of our businesses here, and we pass money just to help them stay open, right? That's our goal, is to not lose any of them, but we really don't know what's going to happen in a year. We don't know how long this is going to take.
I mean, if we started the RFP process in November and we give them 6 to 8 weeks to get an RFP in, that's the end of December. Nobody's doing anything the end of December, early January. We make a decision. We have to vet the proposals. That's going to be a couple weeks. So it might not be. It might be until March before it actually ramps up into a process. And you know so it's going to be, and then from there it has to be at least a 12 to maybe even 18-month process to go through that, so we can get sufficient community input and vetting of all the different perspectives and different categories of things that are in a comprehensive plan. So this may not even really start substantively as a community process until into the end of the first quarter of 21.
Any other questions? Lamb?
My other concern, I guess, was, and thanks for laying out the timetable, because I think that really does matter, is that we know, you know, when we delayed it earlier this year, for good reasons, we know that the plan that we are currently operating with is seriously outdated, or maybe better spoke to say seriously in need of being updated, and has caused us some issues. And if we're looking at a year and a half, you know, out, or maybe more, to get this one completed, if we wait too much longer, then it's just that much longer before we feel we have a substantive plan that we can rely on for all the issues that plan does entail. And I understand about the COVID, and Councilman Heffinger made, you know, really good comments, I think, about the changes that may be happening to us both societally and, you know, how we operate as in the city. But so much of this plan is, you know, as Jonathan said, is pretty much, you know, we're pretty much baked. This community is pretty much baked in. So as long as those things are taken into consideration by whoever it is that we would hire, I think that I still think that it's best if we go forward with it sooner than later.
Any other comments on that? Well, I think I agree. I think that the time frame that you laid out makes sense, that next March, if we start this, it'll still take 8 months to a year to finish it, which will probably be, you know, we need an updated plan probably sooner than that, but I think the timing of it, you'll catch all your COVID issues by the end of the plan. It'll probably be taken into consideration, because by next March, we're going to have a better feel for where we're heading, where the vaccine is heading, how we're going to handle it, and how the businesses will handle it. So it might be a good time to start it. Question?
So do we all agree it needs to be an outside firm? And
Yeah, I think what I hear is that it should be an outside firm because of the potential litigation factors that we're having with it, and the timeline gives us a good enough buffer that if we start the process now and get it started by March, we should be right online. Maybe.
Mr. Coyne? My only question would be, if we get it started now, we get it on the timetable, what if we're where we're at now with COVID still in March? Are we able to stop? Are we able to, what would we do?
Well, we don't know what we would do, but we still may go forward because we still need the answers to these questions.
Okay.
And if COVID is still around in March like it is now, without any substantiated vaccines or things to protect the public, we may need a new plan to tell us how we're going to handle it. Because evidently, it's going to be all different by,
Yeah.
by then. Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
move forward with the comprehensive plan using an outside firm.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jonathan. 2203, expenditure for Eventide radio and phone recorder for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. Our current recording system is end of life, and we need to upgrade our server. This is the one that we demoed and chose. This records our radio traffic as well as our phone calls, 911, and the administrative lines. It also connects up with our CAD RMS system as well, and this will assist us in documenting our communications and our response to the COVID-19 emergency and pandemic.
And this has been, we're going to find out if this has been approved by the legal, all these things we're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna send all these to them and ask them for in writing that it's okay. And I mean, ultimately, like on this, they have to buy it regardless. So if it's not approved, we're just gonna change the account number and pay for it out of police funds. And in the police fund case, it really makes no difference whatsoever because the leftover CARES fund money is gonna go to police salaries. So they'll just get that money in salaries and pay for this out of their own budget, or get this out of CARES and pay for salaries out of their own budget. It's six and one half dozen the other.
Right. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there emergency clause on this one? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Should it?
Just kidding.
We do need the emergency clause on that just based on the time expedience here with the COVID funds.
Okay, is the motion include emergency clause?
Yeah, including the emergency clause on my motion.
My second includes emergency clause.
All in favor with emergency clause?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2204, expenditure for Mtg Technologies tablets for cruisers, please. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for tablets for in our marked patrol vehicles. This will assist us in our communications and our response to the COVID emergency, and we do need the upgraded tablets as well, and the emergency clause is requested on this as well for the time constraints that we have.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I believe the next one was removed.
Yes, sir.
So the next one is 2206, expenditure for Dynamerica restroom renovations for the parks. Who's handling this?
I am.
Oh, Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to retrofit 14 toilets and urinals and lavatories in 5 of our parks and convert them from manual flush to touchless flushing, which will help us with the cleanliness in the parks, as well as keep making sure the restrooms are as sanitary as possible. This does include swapping out 5 tank toilets and converting them to have touchless flush valves. We did get 2 quotes on this. Nino and I worked together. I believe he's got one on later on in the meeting here. Dynamerican Plumbing was the best. We've used them in the past. Thank you.
Any questions?
Emergency clause.
Yep.
The one thing I want to note, the account number, I need to double check that with finance. That's
Should be 170 something.
Yeah, the 4 digits after that's our forestry department.
Oh, that's the wrong.
Oh yeah, no, that shouldn't be forestry. The rest of the digits should just be what it would normally be.
Okay, it's
regardless.
301 then.
Yeah.
No emergency clause. It's finance only.
Is that, are you sure? I don't think so. You want the emergency clause.
No, because it's finance committee only, so that's
Well,
effective.
it's already November. I would
Jansen.
imagine you'd want it.
It's not going, the point is
We
it's not
should.
going to
Just do
council.
it.
There's no emergency clause on a committee action. They take effect immediately anyway.
It goes immediately to the finance
Uh,
department.
I'm sorry. Because it's under 25,000, or 25,000 less. Okay.
Okay, move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2207, expenditure for RAD construction to rebuild a Santa house for the Parks Department. All right. Who's doing the Santa house?
I am.
Oh, you're doing it too? Okay. I want to make sure you're pointing at Nino, and I don't think he was
You're
Santa
throwing
Claus.
me off here. Back in April with the fire at the Bennett Lumber property, we received $27,000 as a depreciation amount for the Santa house. We can recoup some additional funds as we rebuild it. I divided this project into two parts. One, we have already, through Border Control, purchased an 8.5 by 12 trailer that will be custom manufactured to accept the construction of the house. I did get reached out to 3 construction companies that we've done work with in the past. I did receive a quote from 2 of them. In order to decide the design of the new Santa house, I also met with Matt from Main Street Medina to figure out how we could build it a little bit better to be utilized by the public. The new Santa house has 2 doors in it, one for entrance, one for exit. It's utilizing RV steps that will fold up into the Santa house and fold down when it's on the road, which will make it better to store. And we're going to make it out of much more durable materials in the event that it does have to sit outside for a longer period of time. The original, or the best quote, was from Rad Construction and Remodeling. They've done a number of projects for the Parks Department. There's about a 17-week lead time on the trailer, and then construction should be able to be completed, obviously, before it's needed in November of 2021, if we can in fact utilize it.
So you're not saying there's not going to be a Santa this year?
There will be a Santa this year.
Oh,
It is going to be in the interurban,
Okay.
down on South Court Street. So we have found Santa a home, but we're working on building a new one.
Great. Great to hear. I think the kids will love that. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2208, amend ordinance 5720, Lindenwood Lake Dam improvements. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. This has to do with the dam project that's currently ongoing at Lindenwood Lake in Forest Meadows. We've had a number of unexpected items come up as part of that project. So we're requesting a increase in the authorized amount to a total of $276,000. That represents an increase to the authorized amount of a little over $22,000.
And next finance meeting, you're coming back to us?
Pardon me?
Next finance meeting, you're going to come back to us because there's going to be a change.
Well,
Okay. But I guess give a little background for the rest of the council members so they know what this, going back to the landowners, is going to be discussed, what they're going to be discussed with.
you'd like the specific change orders?
Yes, it's kind of an idea because they're pretty specific, a $50,000 change.
The first was the ODNR, after the plans were approved, when construction started, required us to increase the diameter of the base from 72 inches to 84 inches. This is on the standpipe. That was unexpected because we had an approved set of plans, but we had to do that. Second, there was an anti-seep collar. They used to build dams with it's an anti-seep collar. It was to prevent water from leaking around the pipe to go through the dam. That was nowhere close to where we thought it was going to be. Our original plan showed it about 10 foot away from where it actually was. When we discovered it, we had to remove it because it was in the way of the new structure. A couple areas where we had on the inlet, both the inlet and the outlet side, there was some soft material soils that were unacceptable for use. So we had to dig that out and replace those. That cost quite a bit of money. The existing pipe that goes through the dam, when we uncovered them on both sides, the inlet and the outlet side, they were damaged. We had to do a repair to both to install the new outlet structure and inlet structure. We did do, at the request of the property owners, a little more dredging than we had planned on, and we had an issue with borrow material, soils that we had to truck in to raise the dam. We knew we had some, but we had to bring in a lot more than we expected.
And the cost of all that, that's why we're modifying the ordinance, is because of the costs associated with what you just explained.
With everything I just explained, yeah, it pushes us a little over 22,000 over the estimated amount of 253, I think.
Okay. Any questions?
With the emergency clause, or?
I would say the contractor's done this work and is anxious to get paid. So.
Well, subject to you communicating to all the residents.
Correct, yeah.
As part of the emergency clause, you can't pay them until everybody understands and you are able to hear any objections.
Correct.
Okay. Is that correct, Mr. Huber? We just want to make sure that that's done. Okay.
Pat, can I ask how much extra dredging was needed?
It was about 50% more than we anticipated. I think we had included a quantity of 950 cubic yards, and we were somewhere over 1,200, like 1,240 or something like that.
And what would have caused that need for that? You know?
Well, the dredging was just a guess. You don't know until you drain the lake as to how much material you're going to actually need to dredge. So after it was drained, we could see there was a lot more than we had expected.
And how much, do you have a rough idea how much that cost, that extra dredging?
I believe that was somewhere around $6,000 or $7,000 extra.
Okay, thank you. All right, move to approve with the emergency clause?
No emergency clause, Mr. Huber.
Oh, no emergency, okay.
Just kidding.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2209 Job Creation Grant Agreement, Do It Best Corp. Mrs. Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is for the mayor to enter into a job creation grant agreement with the Do It Best Corporation for the purposes of expanding and renovating their facility located at 444 Independence Drive, creating 30 new full-time jobs to the city of Medina. We started working with Do It Best last year, talking to them about this project, and at that time, we were in competition with Montgomery, New York, and Dixon, Illinois for this project. Since then, let me back up. So we started talking to them last year, and then towards the end of last year, early this year, the mayor and I went out and met with them, as well as our economic development partners, to talk about the project. And then, of course, there was the competition piece of it. The company decided that they wanted to do the project here in Medina, and then COVID hit, so we kind of put all of their efforts into dealing with the increase in volume, because as you know, they're a warehouse and distribution facility, so a lot of what they're doing, a lot of what they sell are home improvement tools and home improvement supplies, and so their sales went through the roof. So they're impacted by COVID, but in a positive way. So the project has an estimated investment of $3.1 million, and $3 million of that is for the construction and the renovations. They have committed to creating 30 new full-time positions with new payroll of $1,123,200. The job estimates, they've only included the 30 new full-time positions. However, for council's benefit, this is a conservative number because they do hire seasonals and they do hire part-times, but they did not want to include that in this request. The agreement will provide Do It Best Corporation with a grant of up to 40% of new payroll taxes for 4 years. And so what council would be authorizing on a 4-year grant, if they just met that number, that payroll number, over 4 years, we would be paying out $22,464. And of course, we allow for that 25% overage. So the maximum we would be paying out would be $28,080, again, over a 4-year period. The law director has reviewed the grant agreement and has given his approval. The Business Development Committee also met about 2 weeks ago with the applicant, and they did explain that they are a little bit delayed on submitting the paperwork. They actually had intended to submit it earlier because some of these positions they've already hired. However, they actually have not broke ground on the actual physical expansion. So they've actually shoehorned these extra folks in. So the Business Development Committee did unanimously approve their job creation grant application and is recommending recommending it to council. And so we are respectfully requesting council to approve the application. And as a reminder to council and the public, the job creation grants are funded through non-income tax generated revenues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamwell.
Just briefly, sir, I know John serves on this committee along with Kimberly and I and Bethany and Ron Pato from Huntington Bank. But the company, in competition with these other states, also shared with us that our processes here, with everything they've done at this plant, they're waiting 3-4 times as long in other areas to do similar projects, and they couldn't speak highly enough of the work of the building department, work of community development, getting the permits approved, and getting their processes going. The fellow that came over was from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he's got quite a region for their corporation, which is worldwide, not only in the U.S., and in his entire region. He said, by far, Medina handles things well, and I thought the council should know that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Mr. President, just one comment. Kimberly, before you submit this, you want to check the grant payments under A1, check the dates. Okay, that's all. She can fix it later.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2210 budget amendments. We have for the fire department 7922. I think it's just $30,000 because of short in the vehicle line or maintenance. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 2020 CARES Act funds miscellaneous. This is a list of everything, I think.
This is a large list, and this is not going to be your last appropriation adjustment for CARES Act funds, but it gets us rolling.
And I also want to know...
These are all new accounts, because we had to create that fund, and then we have to create the accounts in it, and so we've got to get them.
So in the council meeting, next time that we have the council meeting regarding all these CARES funds, could we have one ordinance? Could we try to see if we could put it all in one ordinance so we don't have 55 ordinances? I think we could do it in one ordinance. If we approved it separately in finance, I think we could still consolidate it on council to one ordinance.
I did ask Mr. Hunt about a sort of a global CARES Act resolution that takes that language that he gave us to use on the over 25 and just applies that to everything. So I'm gonna see what he says about that, and then, yeah, we would get a list of everything we've done.
I mean, I'll shorten the
apply it.
council meeting next meeting, because I mean, we'll be half an hour talking about it.
I get it.
Okay. Are any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2211, purchase of a 2020 New Tech TriCaster kits for the cable TV. Jared?
Yes, these are to be purchased to use over in our studio and also out in the field to handle all of the needs with COVID. With as a prime example, right now we're covering football games, being able to stream and cast those events because patrons cannot attend those events. We'll have the same thing with the holiday concert season coming up through the schools. So this equipment will allow us to do that.
And I want to say you did a great job with the football games because they won both of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Against St. Ignatius and St. Ed's, which
See
is
if we can
great.
make it 3 in a row against Menor.
Never happened.
And they've done a great job, and I just can't wait to, I think we play Menor on Friday.
It is, but
which
that
hopefully-
one you cannot broadcast, correct, Jared?
We are allowed to audio stream live, and then we do the rebroadcast right after because Spectrum News 1 has the television rights.
I had a lot of people upset they couldn't watch it live on Medina TV now.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then
They can listen to it then.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, anyways, we'll give you some kudos on having them win, but I know
Yes.
it's mostly the teams that did it. But we appreciate
And then I
all
just
your-
respectfully request the emergency clause just because of the COVID-19 money and getting it in time for that.
Okay.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2212, expenditure for Dynamerica restroom renovation service. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. Similar to what Parks Director Jansen referenced, we were looking at a total of the public restrooms. We actually have a lot of toilets. We have like 51 toilets, 40-something urinals. The lavatories, there's 24 sinks, 24 auto soap dispensers that we're looking to convert. So this, the intent is to split this between Dynamerica and Mason Builders. They've done work, they've both done work. And we're understanding, when we talked about the emergency clause, even though it's not needed, is the parts, a lot of folks are doing this and the parts are getting difficult to find. So that's our hope, getting these POs together so they could get the order out because everyone's jumping on the same act.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
So you do want the emergency clause?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2213, expenditure for Mason Custom Builders restroom renovation service. Same thing.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2214, expenditure for Litchfield heating HVAC replacement.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is not to exceed a $25,000 PO to Litchfield Heating. The company knows this train unit that we have existing and was very instrumental in helping spec this out. He and Dan speak the same language with respect to being experts. They were actually the only ones to get the unit that's existing to give heat at one point back when it was just an air mover. And regardless, we're looking at getting this in by between December 7th and 14th. And as Dan stated earlier, we're hopeful to get it in a couple days and up and running.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2215, expenditure Litchfield heating boiler replacement.
So on the list with the capital replacements we talked about earlier, I brought up the boiler. The boiler is 1.2 million BTUs, self-standing unit. It's original 1973. Well, it doesn't operate properly. At the same time, it's instrumental in this whole changeover from removing the existing train unit and with the installation of the new replacement unit. That'll be our only source of heat with the respective offices on the perimeter. So we're looking to replace that single standing unit with 300,000 BTU wall units that are significantly smaller. They're 2 foot by 2 foot and I think 32 inches high. They weigh 243 pounds apiece. We'll have to have our folks get those up there. I'm asking for a PO from Wolf Brothers on the cooperative purchasing program for $25,000. That'll include the 300,000 BTU boilers, 3 stainless steel pumps that are related, conditional upon their operating, two stem gate valves that are the rising valves that have been there that haven't been operated since, I believe, the installation. Those are all at Wolf Brothers. And so coupled with a $23,500 estimate for removal and installation of the same from Litchfield, that'll be $46,500. So I'm respectfully asking for a PO for LHI, Litchfield Heating and Cooling, for $23,500, and then a not to exceed PO for Wolf Brothers, who does have these 3 boilers in stock, and that would be through the cooperative purchasing program if necessary.
Thank you. Any questions?
I think that's it, Dan.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2216 cooperative purchase audio video B&H photo rotunda renovation. Jared?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is through the cooperative purchasing program. This is the first step, as discussed earlier, with the rotunda renovation, getting the technology ordered and in place to keep this project moving on time and on schedule.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2217 amend code 13301 association memberships for the police. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is requesting permission to be members of Leadership of Medina for all of our employees who have graduated their programs to maintain that association. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, 218 expenditure for Tolbert's Law Department for the furniture. I believe this is regarding the CARES Act funding, and I know Mr. Huber likes that, so here's your need.
We submitted this request. We have 3 rooms in the law department. It's not a real big space. We have 6 people in there. We wanted to try to space things out a little more and install desks that are easier to deal with in terms of sanitizing. We have a lot of traffic in our office, and that's the basis of the request.
Thank you. Any further question or comment?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Patton, you want to say something?
I do. Just wanted to give you an FYI. We have an ordinance on the agenda of council this evening. It's for the Ohio Public Works Commission, their grant agreement. You might remember we submitted, we came before Finance Committee, I think, in August. And at that time, we expressed how the grant had been delayed because of state budget concerns. It is coming up. We mentioned that we would let you know what project we were going to select, and we are recommending for this program the reconstruction of South Prospect Street between Smith Road and Lafayette Road. Be a complete reconstruction, new pavement, storm sewer water line. The grant, it'll pay for a little over $490,000 of it. The project's a little over $1 million.
All right, that's coming out of the 108.
It will, yeah.
Okay. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. All right, I think we'll entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
I will make a motion at 7 p.m. to go into executive sessions for 2 purposes. The first is to consider the employment of a public official or employee, and the second is to confer with the law director for the city concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject to imminent or pending court action, to include the mayor, the law director. Anybody else, Mayor?
Second.
We're going to go downstairs in the multipurpose room. Is there a second?
Yep. Second.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Rose,
Yes.
Heffinger,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Hazeltine,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Shields,
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
We'll be recessing into executive session at 7 p.m. to discuss those items that Mr. Shields mentioned. We'll be reconvening into finance, taking no action and adjourning from
She
finance.
said my name.
We're in recess.
I'm like, wait, what?